Welcome to Be Hero Fights. I'm Tom,
And I'm Brian.
and we are here to discuss
Or Fuss.
over two hotly debated, highly related topics.
Last week we had not much of a fight, more of a discussion. A E3 wrap up. We talked about all the great things we saw at E3, things we were excited for, things you guys were excited for. It was a great time, and I'm still hyped on some of the games like Battlefield 2042,
Oh, yeah.
the new Halo Infinite, and so much
hmm
stuff. It
Oh, yeah.
was a great time. Go back, listen to that. Let us know what your thoughts were, and add it to the comments that's already been added to, and tell us all the great things that you guys were excited for from E3 and everything coming up. We'll probably be doing another one of these coming up for EA Talks, which is another one coming up from EA. So let us know how you think of the format of doing that too.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
being said, let's go ahead and get right back into our normal fighting. Today we are going to have a special fight for the 4th of July.
hmm Very exciting. And, 4th of July is one of my favorite times of the year. It's warm out finally. No more freezing your buns off in the winter. Everyone's breaking out the barbecues, fireworks, colors, girls in bikinis, the whole nine yards.
Yeah,
And
right. A little too warm if you're in Portland, Oregon or Washington, but
yeah. So we are going to talk about what is the best thing to barbecue for the 4th of July. But before we go much further into that, let's go over some of the comments because we actually posted this question ahead of time to see what some of your guys' favorite things were to barbecue for the 4th of July. So, first off, we had Mel who said, brats, no question. And while I happen to think that is a fantastic choice, doesn't it just feel almost a little bit sinful to choose a German food for July for America's birthday?
Sir,
I mean,
a part of America, we are a melting pot, not of just
we are.
people, but of food. And brats
It's
are
true.
amazing food to have as long as you have it only with either mustard, sauerkraut, or relish on it. You put ketchup on that, you're kicked out of my house. So,
You can have ketchup with relish and mustard and
not in a brat. Ketchup does not belong in a brat. If you're having ketchup, it's a hot dog. That being said, we also had the podcast guy who comments and says, slow cook a pork butt and then cover it in tangy barbecue sauce. Cook it again to bake it in that sauce. And again, it's hard to disagree. Having a nice pork butt, especially after you get done cooking that, because if you get a good sized pork butt, you cut it up, give chunks to people that want it, but then shred that stuff up. You can have pulled pork sandwiches. You can have like carnita
carnitas.
tacos.
Yep.
Yeah, you have tons of great food available for you for the weeks, depending on how big that booty is.
And I'm not sure if it's just how you read that, but when you read that, I just started drooling. Like, maybe don't be so erotic next time, Brian. Um,
I was talking about butts, so
um, also, Jordo, who he's actually been on the show before, he said spicy sausages, dot, 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 and burgers, chopped white onions in the patties. You know what? It's hard to argue against the classics, right?
right. But burgers and sausages are a staple of the 4th of July and any barbecue, really, and they're fantastic. Myself, I'm not a big fan of the texture of onions, but I love the flavor of onions, so I put like onion powder and everything. That my wife's like massively allergic to onions, so we don't do onions in my house. But having, those chopped onions in a burger, the occasional time when I feel like having onions is that way only.
I mean, I
But
will say that I more prefer the grilled or not grilled, sautéed onions.
sauteed onions,
Yeah,
yep.
I prefer that a
Sauteing,
little
it
bit
brings
more.
out a special flavor for it.
Yeah.
But lastly, from the Showboys podcast himself, Showboys Mike had to say, I grill some dope chicken drumsticks the other night with some spicy dry rub. First time trying that, and it was the most delicious thing I have grilled in some time. Going to have to do it again. Going to have to do it again here soon, but with some Dijon mustard on them drumsticks. And again, yeah, bro. I mean, like chicken is one of the best things to cook on a grill if you can do it right. Make sure it stays nice and moist. Don't dry it out. those kind of things. It's fantastic. I have my own special dry mustard rub that I use for my chicken that you guys will never hear about, but they're dope. It's dope chicken. You do it right, and it's always going to be good.
And there's one easy way to elevate your chicken game, and that's by not doing it on the grill, but doing it on the smoker. Holy cow.
Right?
So much better. Just throwing that out there. Get yourself a smoker, Mike, and try that. It'll change your life.
For sure, for sure. There's a lot of great ones out there too. But before we continue, I just want to throw out real fast. We've been using Riverside FM for a while now, as we guys have told you, and we have officially partnered with them now. So what you guys can do if you guys want to start up your own podcast or really do anything with sharing media across, so if it's podcast streaming, anything like that, use Riverside FM. They have some great advantages for you. They've just added recently a media soundboard, so you can add in sounds and everything else like that. It's super easy, really nice. You can actually have all of your recordings saved on the cloud, so you don't have to worry about keeping a massive amount of storage to have all your old recordings. And for the last month, we here at Be Hero Media have been using that to do all of our podcast recordings online for here on YouTube. It's been fantastic. So go ahead, right into the comments, click our link right down there below to get started with Riverside FM and help us out and have some fun with your new podcast.
Exactly. And as always, make sure you get involved with us. Hit us up on our social medias, facebook.com/BeHeroMedia, instagram.com/BeHeroMedia.
On Twitter at either Be Hero Fights or Be Hero Media, and everything that is Be Hero Media at BeHeroMedia.com. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, click the like button, and enjoy or try it again. Don't forget to hit that like button, click the subscribe button, and hit that little notification bell so you know when we come on right here on YouTube.
That's right. We're always dropping fresh new content. We do a review every week, a new podcast every week, and we also do some live streaming with some video games. My son has played a lot of Fortnite. Brian plays a lot of Call of Duty. Someday I'll
That's right.
I'll learn how to play video games again. We'll see. But yeah, we always have stuff coming at you, so make sure that you are up to date with all that. And lastly, we have joined the show boys for a Discord. So if you just want like a nice, intimate, personal setting where you can just banter with us or them about movies, TV shows, pop culture, anything that you want, that's where you'll find it, and that will also be in the description. But let's get into the meat and potatoes of why we are here today. We are here, and I would like to introduce my good friend Steve. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is a good thing.
Yeah. We're excited.
Definitely, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So Steve and I go way back. We actually used to work together, and he actually owns his own barbecue sauce company now, which we'll tell you more about in a little bit here. But it is phenomenal, and you should buy his sauces. They are second to none, really. And so we felt like he would be a credible source to debate the best thing to barbecue for the 4th of July.
That's right. Doesn't matter what it's going to be. It could be anything from, like we talked about earlier, from hot dogs, brats, hamburgers, chicken, to corn, carne asada. There's tons of things you can do. You can do cow head, which is a pretty big staple in Sonora, Mexico, where my grandmother's from. They grow cow head as barbecue things and eat the head cheese from there after it's been grilled. Did some crazy good stuff, man. Uh, so let's see what you guys are planning on going with. Just so you guys know, we will have both Steve and Tom debating while I'll be judging today.
Yeah, and Steve taught me all I know about barbecue. So, kind of like that scene in Star Wars with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan. Now I am the master. Let's go ahead and introduce the argument or the debate, I guess, topics for the debate. So, Steve, what have you chosen as the best thing to barbecue for the 4th of July?
Round one, fight.
Well, I thought about this long and hard about what was going to be the best thing ever for the 4th of July. But I couldn't come down with one in specific. If I have to, I thought about if we're barbecuing and you're having guests over, what would be the easiest thing? What would be the most savory thing as far as a meat dish concerned? I would say if I'm at home and I have the time to babysit and I have the time to really craft this together, I'm going to have to go with my. I know that I've put my ribs up against several different companies in Salt Lake. I've had friends over. Everybody loves my ribs. I love my ribs. That's what's important. And to see the smiles on people's faces when you got that. And I love meat with the handle. So that one guy that talked about drums and stuff, that's great because you can eat it. It's got a little bone. But man, ribs, you got both sides. So you could, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing like a rib that
Oh yeah.
resists just a little bit. Doesn't fall off the bone completely. You want that pull on there. Um, but when you rub it, when you use a good rub, and you're got 3 or 4 hours of that thing, and like I said, you can babysit it. I'm gonna go with rib. If I'm traveling to somebody's house and I'm bringing meat with me, I'm gonna have to go with the brats. I know that we tried a Brattoberfest once, and you got the bun to hold it in. You said if you put ketchup on a brat, it becomes a hot dog. I have to disagree. And I'm originally from Wisconsin, and I'm telling you, I learned how to cook brats at Lambeau Field, tailgating with people. You're walking through, and people have these little grills all over the place, and they're just cooking brats and hamburgers and stuff all over the place. I love mayonnaise and ketchup on a brat. I do love grilled onions. Grilled onions is nothing. There's nothing like a good grilled onion. But if I'm traveling, you can put them in the beer. You got your garlic, you got your onions. You take it in a pot. You can carry it. It's easy to travel with. But if I'm at home, man, I'm gonna take the time and I'm gonna smoke and I'm gonna slow cook. So I'm gonna have to. If I'm at home, I'm gonna have to say ribs are king.
That's fair. That's fair. We'll go with the at home. So we'll say that we're hosting. So we'll just define this argument just a little bit more. So we are hosting the barbecue. So you have ribs. And I can second, his ribs are phenomenal. He taught me how to cook ribs. He also taught me how to cook brats. Ironically. And I feel like I've got them both down quite well now, but he definitely knows his stuff with that. Um so what I have chosen to go with, and I wanted to go with ribs, but I'm gonna have to say brisket. You get like a nice 10-15 pound brisket, throw that thing on the smoker. It's gonna take a while, but again, I'm hosting. I want people to be happy. I want people to be satisfied. I'm gonna go all out for this. This is the 4th of July,
Tom,
America's
if you're
birthday.
cooking brisket this 4th of July, I'll fly out to Salt Lake City and I'll have some of that brisket because brisket's king. I mean, if you can do a brisket, whew, I'll come to your house every year, dude. That's all there is to it.
So brisket is my choice. I think there's a lot of versatility with it. It can be used. It's something that's going to be big, so it's great for a large group setting. And even if you can be selfish if you want, you can just cook that thing up for you. Put the leftovers in the fridge. It's going to make great sandwiches. So many things you can use that for. Brisket all the way. I'm sticking with that as the barbecue king for the 4th of July.
Right on. Both are great choices. I'm happy that you both went with something that takes effort
Yeah.
over, say, like hot dogs or burgers. Which, don't get me wrong, I love both, but I'm glad you guys went with something that actually have to put some effort into.
Yeah, can I just say on that note, like I know that like hot dogs and burgers are definitely the most generic thing. It's definitely a simple go-to, but
You can get that at McDonald's.
most people
You can
don't.
go to Wiener
You
Schnitzel,
can get
right?
it at McDonald's,
It's-
and the
Yep.
sad thing is like most people don't actually know how to grill a hamburger properly, so you're actually better off.
Oh, you don't like the hockey puck?
McDonald's? Yeah, just
When the guy grills
throw
the
it like a
hamburger like
frisbee.
a
Yeah,
hockey puck,
but
and the guy, oh, these are great, bro.
yeah, crunch, crunch.
The dog's always sitting by you.
Those are like Tom steaks.
Oh, hey now.
Round 2. Fight. So here in round 2, you guys will debate why yours is better. So Steve, tell me, why ribs are the best and brisket falls short for
Okay,
doing it all.
so the thing about ribs is you can pretty much figure out how many people are going to be coming. So if I say I got 10 people coming, I'm going to do about a half a rack per person. Unless it's me and Tom, then I'll do like one rack for him and one rack for me type situation. I think it's smaller and it's easier to handle. With the spices and the rubs and stuff, I think it's a little easier to control your cooking with it. Um, and I think the flavor, like I said, it's got the little handles, the little meat, the little bones. It can get tender fairly quickly. I have a video that's on my Facebook page that shows how you can get 8-hour style ribs in only 3 hours. And it works. It really does. So if you got a lot of people, the last thing you want to do is spend a long time making sure that that brisket is, cooked versus the ribs where you grill them, you sauce them, put them in the oven, or you just do the Texas crutch and wrap them in foil, let them get moist, pull them out, slather them again, and bang, you got people that are standing in line behind you like they're at a bar waiting to get a drink, on a Friday night. They just want some of those ribs. The downside to doing a brisket, I mean, brisket's king, right? So you got to really know how to do it. If it comes out like leather, if it comes out dry, if you don't season it right, depending where the heat's coming through the grill, you always got to turn it or you got to make sure that it's cooking evenly. The bigger the brisket is bigger the cow. So the bigger the cow means the older the cow. What it means is that meat, if you're getting a really big brisket going, that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough meat. And you really, really have to know what you're doing. That's why they say brisket's king. But on ribs, it's a smaller meat. It's more versatile. You can move it around on a grill. You can put it in an oven to help it if you make mistakes. It's more forgiving than a brisket. Because the last thing you want to do is cook a brisket and then like we said about the hockey puck hamburger, they're like, oh wow, yeah. I mean the seasoning may be good, but I'm telling you, man, if that just doesn't pull apart right, you know what I mean, and that fat doesn't render right, you might embarrass you. I don't know. I don't do brisket that much because it's that
Which I
it's
have
that
done.
it's just that tricky. I love ribs. I do ribs over a brisket. But like I said, if
Yeah.
Tom's gonna make brisket, I'll fly down to Salt Lake. I'll spend my fourth third. It's just a
I
big piece of
definitely
meat. You just gotta know what
I
you're
definitely
doing.
see what you're saying there. And ribs, yeah. Um, you know, ribs are a fantastic choice. And someone who has their rib game on point, it's gonna be hard to top that. um, you know, and honestly, like there's really not such a thing as good ribs at a restaurant. Like you have to just know how to cook them yourself. Ah, not sure what that was.
That was a
Um,
Harley Davidson driving
but
past
yeah,
my window.
here's the thing. Gotcha.
There you go.
So here's the thing. Brisket, yes, it is going to take a little more planning. Um, some of the advantages, like I said, you have a good sized piece of meat. It's really easy to portion out for a large group, and then you get the leftovers as well. Plus, I'm gonna I'm gonna throw a cheap shot in here a little bit. See, when you take a brisket and you rub it down with Sauce O Rama's beef rub before throwing that on the smoker,
Go to sleep, will you?
I'm telling you, that that is the first
Okay,
step
hold
to
on a minute now.
success.
You're putting sauce on a brisket when you're smoking it?
No, no, Sauce O
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Rama's
thought you meant
beef
the
rub.
barbecue sauce. I was like, no, I won't fly out to Salt
No,
Lake.
no, no, no,
You can keep it. Oh my
no,
gosh.
your
Well,
beef
that's
rub.
very flattering. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's the first step to a great, not a good, a great brisket. Now, yes, it does take a little more careful crafting and planning. But if you get the right smoker, you gotta start early, some 10 to 12 hours sometimes. I've seen it go up to 14 hours before. But yeah, you start slow, but as long as you give yourself plenty of time, that thing is going to rock the barbecue. Now, here's the one other, I think, biggest advantage to doing something like a brisket is because the bulk of the flavor comes from two things: your rub and the smoke. Now, this allows people to then take, once you have it tender and falling apart and juicy, this allows them to then tailor it how they like it. I've found that some people like the nastiest barbecue sauces ever. I mean, first of all, if you did the brisket right, you probably shouldn't have the barbecue sauce anyway, but some people just need that extra moisture. They just do. They just freak out if they don't have it. So this allows you to then present a variety of options. Do you want to put it in a roll? Do you want to put it with your mashed potatoes? Do you want it like, how do you want to eat your brisket? Now I'm giving them options. Whereas with ribs, like, yes, your rib game can be on point, but some people, like, it might be too spicy for them, or it might be too, or they might not be spicy enough, then suddenly it changes the dynamic for them. And so I feel like ribs is going to be a little, I guess, more seclusive because some people might not like the
Kick them
sausages.
out of your party.
That's the best argument I got.
But hey, Tom, no, you make a good point. There's
Right.
the wet ribs and then there's dry ribs. You know what I'm saying? You can do a like a mustard slather with some salt and pepper, some
Yeah.
coarse pepper, and grill that, and then smoke it, or you can slow smoke it, or whatever you want to do it, and it doesn't really have that that wet wet and dry rib. But I do agree that
Mhm.
when you do the ribs, like wet ribs, like I like to do, yeah, you're stuck with what you get. But the brisket, though, I mean, it's just I know people that put it on a roll, and they'll put like that Carolina style mustard that I have on there. Maybe they like it that way, maybe they don't. I like it on the side with a white slice of bread, a slice of white bread side, and I'll just pick it apart and I'll shove it in my mouth. It's that good. It's like butter.
Oh yeah.
But I'll agree with you.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, so far both arguments are very strong. This is kind of hard for me because I love both of these. I make myself. I think I make some really good ribs. I haven't had an opportunity to really make a good brisket yet. Largely because briskets are expensive.
Yes, they are.
But uh, with that being said, Steve, why don't we go a little bit past the ribs? So, what is along with the ribs? What's your best side for
I
the
think the
ribs for you?
sides are just as important as the main dish, the main meat source that you use. I have a mentor of mine that is in Austin, Texas. He has one of the most successful barbecue businesses in the United States. I've done his master class. My wife bought his book for me, and I really respect the guy. But if you go online, I'm not going to say his, but if you go online, his sides don't get very good reviews. Like the coleslaw's dry, it's too vinegary, or just like the other side is just doesn't have flavor, no salt and pepper in it. It's just nothing. It's kind of there. But man, he is the king of brisket. He can do 120 briskets in 4 hours, and that's just brisket. I mean, he goes through ribs, he goes through pork. This guy is phenomenal. Um, let me make a point real quick. Deviled eggs are not just for holidays, guys. Deviled eggs are the bomb.com. Make them anytime you want. You don't have to wait for the 4th of July or Memorial Weekend to make deviled eggs. Deviled eggs are the bomb. Those are an excellent side. Everybody loves them. We are going to be making them this Friday, though. I think, like, if you're doing a pulled pork sandwich or something like that, you want to put a nice creamy slaw on top of that sandwich. You know what I'm saying? Some people like it, some people don't. I like it on the side. I like it on my sandwich. It just depends on what it is. But you know, sides. One that I've learned since I moved to Utah is the funeral potato dish. I've perfected it, and I can make it anyways. I make it with cream of mushroom. I make cream of chicken. I'll make it with jalapenos. I'll put crisp bacon on it. It's very versatile. In a pan, a 9 by 13 pan, and I got a video of this that I show on Sauce O Rama on Facebook. Because I mean, you could feed like 20 people, in one pan, and it's not that expensive. I love the funeral potatoes. I love them, but man, a creamy, spicy
Yep,
coleslaw
yep,
on the side when you got the hot
it-
meat and then the cold. Because who wants a whole bunch of hot dishes, you know, when it's 90 degrees out? Here it's 90 degrees, and then you add 90% humidity. It makes it even worse.
yeah.
But something nice and cold, something to offset
Yeah.
the like Thomas saying. If it's too spicy, well, maybe a nice creamy potato salad on the side, and that's something cold would pull that off and balance it out really well. But I love funeral potatoes. So versatile.
True, and for everyone outside of Utah that doesn't know what a funeral potato is, it's very similar to like au gratin potatoes in a casserole, usually done with like cream of mushroom or something like that. Super good, super popular here in Utah because, like Steve said, it feeds a ton, and Utah usually has a large amount of families
Yeah.
together. So it's a kind of a staple of Utah. That and Jello, you're pretty much golden for every party in
Don't get me
Utah.
started on green
All right.
Jello. Ugh. Yeah.
Is that
Why?
cat
Why
food
is
in the
there
It's
Jello?
the
carrots?
cat in the
Why is
Jello.
there carrots in
What
green
movie was
Jello?
that? Well, what movie was that? Was that National Lampoon
Something like
Family
that.
Vacation or something? No, Christmas
Something
Vacation.
like that.
Yeah, the aunt brought the Jello with the little
Yep.
X's and O's and the.
All right, Tom. For you, going up against the ribs, which is a very big staple for anybody that does barbecue, is to have fantastic ribs. What is you know the downside to doing ribs if you really don't know what you're doing? Like brisket, you have no chance unless you like put some effort and time into it. You can't really get a good brisket going. But for ribs, you can almost fail upwards into making a half decent thing of ribs. So tell me, what's the hardest part about doing ribs?
um, you know the that's kind of a tough question. Almost feels unfair, but because like you said, yeah, you're failing upwards compared to brisket. Anyway, brisket
Mhm.
is not for the beginner griller, beginner barbecuer. Um, the thing the thing about
Not
ribs,
at all.
I think I think with ribs, people are going to be a little bit more intimidated to try, just because I think pork in general comes with kind of a misnomer about how it has to be cooked. And I think at least I know I had that when Steve here was teaching me how to cook ribs, and I've met many people that like, yeah, I just don't mess with pork because I don't know how to cook it and I don't know what's safe. Whereas beef, like, yeah, a little medium rare, whatever, like nobody cares, you know. Um, so I think that's probably going to be the biggest deterrent to someone doing ribs. Yeah, that's kind of the best I got. I mean, there
All
are
right.
lots of ways to do them, but yeah, I think that's what I'm going to roll with.
Yeah. Again, with
Let me add.
go
Let me
ahead.
add. Okay, sorry. Go.
Well,
Uh,
I was gonna say,
I was just gonna say that out of all the barbecues, the most forgiving piece of meat
yeah,
is the pork shoulder. People make pulled pork on. It's the most forgiving. It really is. I think next in line would be ribs. Ribs, you just got to get them right. You know what I mean? They're just there, and you don't want them to fall apart. You don't want them to be mushy. You don't want them to be like tough and get stuck in your teeth and all that. And then I think brisket. When you go into brisket, it is a
yeah.
talent to do that. It has been intimidating for somebody like me, and I've gone through barbecue school. I'm certified. I still, to this day, say brisket's king. You can perfect a brisket, you're gonna have a lot more fun.
Right. And I was gonna say essentially the same thing. Ribs are a very much the easier, not easy, but easier thing for cooking relative to brisket. I know myself. I've been intimidated about trying to make a brisket, but I've been wanting to. Uh, but my rib game was failing upwards. I started making ribs several years ago and tried to find the best recipes I can find and everything else like that, and I've got my own down, but it took me a while to get there, and now I make some bomb .com, as Steve said, ribs that are Dr. Pepper marinated and flavored. So they are amazing.
I've seen that. They did that at the
Yeah.
barbecue school. Yeah, we did like 6 or 7 different styles of ribs, and one of them they were doing Dr. Pepper, and I was sitting there, I was like, "What the hell is he doing?" And they put
hmm
parquet margarine on it, and they put the Dr. Pepper, and I was like, "What the heck?" And I was very doubtful, but when it came out at the end, the class that we took this one day, it was in there for 7 or 8 hours, and it came out. It was pretty good.
Yeah, like mine, when I do mine, it's like a 3-day process because I marinate mine overnight in a Dr. Pepper and soy sauce mix and let that sit for a while and then go from there. So, and they are just so good. Having it done that way adds this like carbonation like texture to the ribs when you marinate them that long like that. So you like when you're eating them, it tastes like a soda when you're eating it. So, but that being said, let's go ahead and go into our final thoughts. So in this one, you're going to go and give your last gasp, your last thought of why your ribs and or brisket are the best choice for our fans here to go ahead and have for the 4th of July. But just before we do that, Steve, why don't you tell us one last time all about Sauce O Rama and how they can find you guys?
Oh my gosh. Well, Sauce O Rama started many, 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 many years ago, probably before you guys were even born. My dad was he cooked some pretty darn good ribs, and I was about 10 or 12 years old when I really started to appreciate good food. Like you could remember something. Like, wow, that's really good. And unfortunately, about 5 or 6 years later, my dad passed away, and I never had an opportunity to learn how to cook the ribs. Like my dad did. Sometimes there's family traditions. Like some people do
Mm,
pie crust, and they learn it from their grandmother, so they know how to make baking soda biscuits, or you know what I mean. Just something in the family that they've always learned from their parents. I never had that opportunity. And, my wife and I were sitting around one day. She's like, I told her, I said I wanted to try and find it. I think I tinkered with it for a while, but I just couldn't get it. And then some years went by, and I dug up an old email that was like 7 years old. And it's for a T-shirt that I was going to have made called Cobb Slob, and it's like a white sauce you put on corn on the cob when you're grilling it, and then you roll it in Parmesan or whatever. It's just an absolutely fantastic sauce. I just can't jar it because it has dairy,
mm,
and I'm just not at the point right now where we do that. So my wife was like, she's like, wow, why don't you just try it again? I said, okay. So I picked it up, and sure enough, after about 2 years, 2 or 3 years, I think it was, I finally hit something that tasted that I could remember the memories that were created from being next to my dad at the grill, and I felt good about it. And then I sent out a whole bunch of jars and stuff, and people taste tested them, and they gave me an honest, 10 or 20 question review on it. A lot of people took it in well. So I started making the sauce, and we're on Facebook, Sauce O Rama, Sauce O Rama on Facebook. I don't have a website yet because we moved from Utah to Wisconsin, and I just didn't have an opportunity while we had an entity there in Utah to do a website. But you can definitely get a hold of us through messaging. My phone number's on there. Um, if you're looking for stuff, I do rubs and things like that. We do a sweet and smoky now. We have a Carolina style mustard sauce that's fantastic. People love to put that on the brisket. And we're working on a couple new things right now. So that's how it all got started. That's where we are now. We're in Wisconsin, and just check us out on Facebook. I mean, it's my sauce. I compare it to a homegrown tomato. You can buy sauce in the store for $1.80, whatever, and get a nice thing. I do a 16-ounce jar for $6 or $7. Um, but it's like a homegrown tomato. Once you've had my sauce, you don't go back to the old. I mean, the sauces that I make are built for designed specifically to enhance the flavor. It's good stuff. You guys should
And I
try it.
can
sure,
confirm it is
for sure.
fantastic sauce. It is by far my favorite.
I love it. I'd eat it.
Yeah.
I eat it all the
I
time.
bet you do.
I
Well,
do.
guys,
I gained so much weight doing the test kitchen. You wouldn't believe it. I told you how much weight I. And look at this. It turned this from brown to white. It's all that stress, man, trying to do that brisket.
I bet, man. I mean, just doing my ribs over the last couple of years got me going some white right here. So, uh,
Let me tell you something. After I showed Tom and we got together and we did the ribs together, he actually took some of my sauces and created these absolutely amazing pink sauces to go with it. And I never remember what the hell he does, but it's so good. So Tom, forgive me if I ask you for how do you
I
do that
got you.
again. But he would get so excited about those ribs. He would send me
Still do.
pictures he'd take pictures of the ribs on the grill and he's like, look what I got. He's all excited and everything. And I'm like, dude, go for it. And he's like, oh man, I'm trying my own sauce. And I'm like, dude, go for it. And it's so cool. I mean, to see, that for people to gain knowledge and stuff and start doing this stuff on their own, I can almost guarantee you, and Tom, you'll probably agree with me, you'll never go back to a bottled sauce again. Now that you're making your own. It's no comparison. It's like a homegrown tomato versus a hothouse tomato. Which one would you rather have?
Yeah.
And once you've had it, I mean, I've been brewing beer for almost 20 years. I don't like to buy beer in the stores, but I do. I mean, I like it. But, it's like once you brew it yourself, you just don't go out and buy it again. But sometimes you have to. But, Tom, you'll agree with me. Once you make your own sauce, man, it elevates
it changes the game.
It's just
sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
It does.
Right on. Well, guys, definitely.
But putting those $1.50 sauce, putting those $1.50 sauces on your ribs or whatever, that's like putting $100 saddle on a $2 donkey, or a $2 saddle on a $100 donkey. You don't want to.
Yeah.
You don't want to do it. That's right.
Well, guys, definitely go to Sauce O Rama on Facebook. Take a look on there, and definitely reach out to Steve. Get some of his sauce. It's awesome. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and go into final thoughts. Final round. Fight. Well, Steve, for final thoughts, tell us why ribs over anything else.
Well, there's nothing like lifting the top of the grill when you got a bunch of guys standing around you, and you're gonna put that final, brush action of, killer sauce on there. The smell, it's interactive. It's got great color. It's easy to make and it's easy to serve. You just take the knife, you cut it through. Ladies like 3 or 4 ribs. Guys will take a half rack. It's easy to portion. Doesn't take that long. The meat is more inexpensive. It's an all around, all versatile. It's just a classic, man. I mean, ribs rule.
It's a very good choice. Very good choice. Tom, why brisket?
I mean, it's hard to say much against what he just said. Because the smell, man. But brisket also gives you a wonderful, especially when you are smoking that brisket and you've got the right rub, and when you have nailed it, you get that same experience when you finally get to open it with all your mates around the grill drinking that beer. You pull it out, you take off the butcher paper, and then you just give it a little touch and just see the juices start dripping out, start gushing a little bit. Like that right there, that is the most satisfactory thing to see, to smell. The neighbors are going to be peeking over the fence like, hey, what's going on over there? Like, can I have some? And you've got enough that they can have some. Like, that's not a problem.
Yeah, but they were peeking over the fence 7 hours ago when they were starting to smell that.
Exactly.
Right.
and then your whole house.
Well, they've been peeking over the fence for about 8 hours
and then
now.
Your whole house smells like brisket, and and it's amazing. So you have a good smelling house. And then you can pair it up with some garlic Texas toast and corn on the cob, and there will not be a sad soul for miles.
Can I add one more thing?
Go right ahead.
When I do ribs, there are no.
Touche.
All right, guys.
I got people asking for bones to take home. They just want to suck. They just want to suck on the bone for like an hour.
Yeah.
Who needs a toothpick when you got a good rib bone? All right, guys. So this is going to be a bit of a hard one. I love both. If you get a good rib, and definitely if you get a good brisket, it is hard to decide between which one you go with. Um, so for me, I'm kind of breaking it down to two major things: is the quality of a person, like the amount of training and ability a person has to make that. Like my roommate can just go out and make a brisket. He can make all right ribs, but he's not going to go out and make a brisket. Uh, but at the same time, I've got friends who do make brisket and they do bomb brisket, and I'm super happy to go over there to have that brisket. But they've been spending a lot of their life doing that stuff. My other buddy Steve, not this current Steve, he makes a great brisket. He'd bring it into work every time he would, just to have so I could have some. And even like a day or two later, that brisket is always so bomb.
.com.
But yeah, bomb.com. The other aspect that I'm going to go with is definitely going with the sides on this. We kind of brought up sides for both of these, where it was talked about with fino potatoes, corn on the cob, and garlic toast and such. But the one that kind of pushes it over the edge for me, and if anybody knows me, they know why, is the deviled eggs. I love deviled eggs so much. My family makes me deviled eggs, like a whole batch of deviled eggs by myself, and then they have one for everybody else. So, uh, I think between that and the availability that anybody can try it without really feeling like they're either wasting money or are not capable of doing it, I'm gonna go with ribs. Steve, I think you made the right choice in this one, and you're gonna win on this one, man. The ribs is the one to go with. And don't get me wrong, like usually Tom gives me crap about always choosing the other person that's not Tom, but this was a really hard one because like if you can make a great brisket, I'm going to choose a
I'm
great
telling you.
brisket every time. But you can also have a passable rib with less training and effort than you can have a
Yeah,
passable brisket.
the line
So
between like a passable brisket and a great brisket is there really isn't such thing as a passable brisket. It's like it's either great or
It's
for
like
our house,
Motorhead, right? It's like the band Motorhead. You either hate them or you love
yeah, and
exactly,
yeah, ribs.
exactly.
Yeah, even a marginal rib is still going to be enjoyed. So, yeah, I actually don't disagree with the ruling. I think that was a really good point to bring up. Just the skill level required to do ribs versus brisket, and and my only argument was like,
them. You know
people
what?
might be scared of pork.
Yeah. You know what, Tom? Though I mean, it's exactly what Brian said. If you come over to somebody's house and they know how to nail a brisket, hands down. Like I said, I'd love to have somebody invite me over for brisket. I've never been invited over for brisket, and I love to do it. And it's just ribs, man. They're fast. Not spending a lot of time babysitting, but
It's truth.
definitely.
Yep. Even my 3-day ribs, man, I throw those in to let them cook over like a 12-hour period, and I can literally just let them go and check on them every couple hours to make sure that they stay nice and moist. But I don't have to come back. Where like on a brisket, I got to be there every like hour to 2 hours to make sure that that stays nice and juicy. So, yeah, it's that skill level and the amount of effort you put in the effort. You can have a great brisket, but you put in enough effort, you can have all right ribs. So, and of course, both are going to be fantastic with Sauce O Rama sauce and dry rub on it. So,
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate the plug. It's taken me
Of
a long
course.
time to get those, and I'm
of
glad
course,
you enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I was going to bring you some sauce when I was in Salt Lake City, Tom. I didn't know that the wing company was right down the street from me. I thought you were all the way downtown at Trolley Square. I would have brought you some sauce.
Next time.
Ugh.
I still need to give
that's
you one
right.
of our
And I
shirts.
haven't been gone a year.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Steve, for joining us here. And again, guys, go to Sauce O Rama on Facebook, hit him up, and get some Sauce O Rama yourself. It's great stuff. Uh, and guys, don't forget to hit us up on social media as well, which our social media stuff is.
Facebook.com/BeHeroMedia, Instagram.com/BeHeroMedia.
on Twitter at Be Hero Fights or Be Hero Media. Of course, you can hit us up at everything that is Be Hero Media at BeHeroMedia.com. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button right here on YouTube. And you guys go to our website again, BeHeroMedia.com, and start to get some of our Be Hero merch that's available, such as our Be Hero Fights T-shirt and
Exactly.
Fight On.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
Well, thanks for joining us, Steve. Of course. And guys, we do this every week. Steve, the way we end this is I will
You
say
will say
fight
as
on, or I will say as always, you will say fight on. So, guys, as always,
Fight on.
all right, guys, we'll catch you next week.